Hi, it's me again, and with it all kicking off a little bit between the royal family and the BBC, the Sun has stepped in with this article letting us know some of the worst things the BBC's done over time. So I thought it'd be fun and cheer us right up to have a little look at it, eh? Let's take a look together and we'll have a chat about it as always, shall we? The Big Blunder Corporation, from Martin Bashir to Jimmy Savile, the BBC's biggest ever scandals. The BBC insists it does not shy away from its mistakes and has announced a 3-part documentary series on Auntie's biggest blunders to be screened next year for its 100th anniversary. Yeah, don't think that they're going to own up to a lot of stuff in that. It's actually a 3-part on the history of the BBC, and they're going to mention some of the scandals, but I bet they paint them in a nice manner to make them look so badly. I won't be going in depth or anything like that. I did a video on it. I'll try and remember to put a link below. I did it a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, don't think it is what it is, because it's not going to be 3-part on them owning up to all the crap they've done over the years. Trust me, it's not going to be that. All right, top of the list, Martin Bashir and Princess Diana. A recent inquiry found Bashir had used fake bank statements to win Diana's trust for the Panorama interview 26 years ago. It led to Prince William slamming the rogue reporter as well as BBC bosses. The Beeb has since written to apologise to William, his brother Harry, the Prince of Wales, and Diana's brother Earl Spencer. He has also handed back the BAFTA it won for the programme. Rightly bloody so, you should hand the BAFTA back for the programme. He didn't earn the BAFTA. Ah, bloody BBC. But I think Bashir is a pretty bad one, but I don't think it's the worst thing they've ever done. It's just expected, isn't it? Lying and cheating to get what they want is what I personally expect from the BBC, rightly or wrongly, but the more I look into it, that's the more I expect from the BBC. But I don't think it's the worst thing they did. I'm sure that'll be in here. Let's read on. Ah, there it is. Jimmy Savile. The DJ and Top of the Pops host worked at the BBC from 1964 to 2007. But it was only after his death in 2011 that he was revealed as what he was. An inquiry later found Savile had sexually abused more than 70 women and children as young as 8 years old. Then Director General Tony Hall told victims, "The BBC failed you when it should have protected you." Well, that's putting it a bit fucking lightly, isn't it? Because there's tons of stories from the BBC in those days, from staff at the BBC saying they knew, it was common knowledge. They knew, but they wouldn't dare say anything about it, or the ones that did got reprimanded or demoted or got into trouble. It was an open secret in the BBC, according to many BBC insiders from the time, but no one could do anything about it. There's even rumours of him in his BBC dressing rooms and stuff. And like, you look at the audience for Top of the Pops or the audience for Jim Will Fix It, it was all the kids from the care homes and that, wasn't it? The BBC were complicit in it. It wasn't just a blind eye was turned. They were fully complicit in it and let the man do whatever he wanted. He was above the law at the BBC. And that is the worst thing the BBC's ever done. How can you trust a corporation that's done that? Doesn't take those reports seriously from staff. If one person says they can smell smoke, maybe they just smell a bit of smoke. But if 50 people come to you and say they can smell smoke, then the office is on fire. It's simple, isn't it? It winds me up. I just can't support the BBC after that. I just couldn't. There's no way I could. Right, next up, Sir Cliff Richard. The singer sued the broadcaster after it filmed a South Yorkshire police raid on his Berkshire home in 2014. Cliff was accused of a sexual assault dating back to 1985, but he was never arrested or charged, and the false case was dropped 2 years later. He said of the BBC, "They smeared my name around the world." The Beeb apologised and is thought to have paid £2 million towards wronged Cliff's 5-year legal battle to clear his name. Yeah, it's a tricky one, that, isn't it? Because it is news, but then, it shouldn't be filming that. What happened to innocent until proven guilty? And the BBC was smearing his name. There was loads of stories about it, and they were talking about it, on the rolling news all the time and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. Without having any evidence or any charges, should they have been talking about it so much? Because the more something appears in the news, rightly or wrongly, the more people actually believe it, don't they? Oh yeah, tricky one that. Not a fan of Cliff Richard myself, but no one deserves to be wrongly accused of something and have the public believe it because you're broadcasting it on the most trusted news network in the country. It's a tricky one, isn't it? The Hutton Inquiry. Dr. David Kelly was found dead in 2003 shortly after he was named as the suspected source of a BBC report claiming the government had sexed up its dossier on Iraq's weapons. The Hutton Inquiry set up to examine circumstances surrounding the death of the Minister of Defence scientist, cleared the government of wrongdoing while strongly criticising the BBC. I don't really know too much about that one, to be honest, but it sounds pretty standard BBC to me. But do please feel free to educate me on this one down in the comments, because this was before I was in the fight, and 2003 I was mostly drunk and in nightclubs, so I don't really know too much about that one, I'm afraid. Lord McAlpine. The BBC and ITV both apologised to former Conservative Party chair Lord McAlpine for disastrously and falsely linking him to historical allegations of child sex abuse at a North Wales children's home. Although Lord McAlpine was not named in the Newsnight report in 2012, he was widely linked to the claims on social media. The BBC agreed to pay damages plus legal costs, and Director General George Entwistle resigned. So was that before or after the Cliff Richard one? Because it's quite similar, isn't it? Where are we? So that was 2014 for Cliff, and Lord McAlpine was 2012. So they learnt nothing. They learnt nothing. They had all this problem with the Lord McAlpine scandal, and they learnt nothing from it and did the same thing again with Cliff Richard. They just don't care. They don't care, do they? They won't learn, and they don't care because they're protected by the government. And it's not like advertisers can pull out and make the channel go bust, is it? Which is what happened with GB News. People said something, or it hadn't even started, is it? And advertisers were pulling out because they were worried they were going to say something, you know, that the advertisers didn't agree with. So they started pulling out, and they could have broke the channel before the channel had even launched. But BBC don't have that problem, do they? Because there are no advertisers to concern themselves about. They're going to get their free money every year, no matter what. So they don't have to play ball or learn anything, do they? Fake Primark footage. What's this one? I haven't heard of this one. In 2008, a Panorama episode titled Primark on the Rack claimed to show undercover footage of young boys in a workshop in Bangalore, India, manufacturing garments for the cut-price clothes chain. But 3 years later, the BBC Trust found that, on the balance of probabilities, it was more likely than not that the footage was not authentic. Checking your stuff brilliantly again there, BBC. Panorama handed back the Royal Television Society award it had won for the documentary. And rightly bloody so, because you made it all up. You made it all up. You can't keep the award for it. Stop making stuff up. You have to check these things. It's not like me, where I can show something on this channel, and if I get it wrong, I'm a numpty and I'll get called out on it. You know, you're the most trusted news provider in the UK. You have to double, triple, quadruple check everything you put out to make sure it's right and you're giving people out there the correct information. You can't just chuck any old bit of footage in and call it a panorama. Or one of my personal favourites, the Blue Peter phone-in. A phone-in competition to children's programme Blue Peter in November 2006 was later found out to have been rigged. I don't know how that doesn't happen more often. I bet that happened a lot on a lot of the old phone-in things, don't you? Before this got called out and then it all had to end and Big Pucker and above board. A technical difficulty resulted in a researcher asking a young visitor to the TV studio to pretend to be calling from an outside line. Media watchdog Ofcom criticised the BBC for negligence and for making a child complicit in the fakery. BBC and children shouldn't be in the same sentence, should it? It also dished out its first ever fine to the broadcaster, £45,000 of your TV licence fee money for faking the competition, and £5,000 of your TV licence fee money for repeating the show on CBBC. God, I do bet that happened a lot though. I can't back that up. But there was all those phoning competitions and that, weren't there? And the ones where you can win stuff just by phoning the £1.50 a minute number. How many of them were pucker? Like the X Factor voting. I reckon the first couple of seasons of that was all fake as well. But Blue Peter, come on, it's a kid's show, isn't mad, is it? That was one of the funnier ones for me. I remember that. I did find that funny. The Queen storms out. In 2007, a 60-second trailer of the BBC's A Year with the Queen appeared to suggest Her Majesty had stormed out of a shoot with a photographer, Annie Leibovitz, after being asked to remove her crown. BBC One controller Peter Fincham told journalists at the launch that it showed the monarch losing it a bit and walking off in a huff. In fact, the trailer was edited out of sequence and the latter shot was the Queen entering the room. The BBC apologised to Her Majesty and Annie, admitting to a serious error of judgment. It's just clickbait though, isn't it? You get that all the time. I mean, we're quite the fans of 90 Day Fiancé. I quite like that. I download it dodgily, shouldn't, I know. But before the ad breaks in the show, they show a bit like that, where it's all kicking off. And then when you actually see it, none of that actually happened. It's just all edited out sequence to make you stay to watch the adverts. Madness. They're still doing it, but you'd expect better from the BBC, especially with the Queen, seeing as how the BBC exists by royal charter. Don't piss the boss off. 9/11 Anti-American Hate. A live edition of Question Time 2 days after the terror attack on the World Trade Center in 2001 saw audience members claim the US had brought the tragedy on itself by pursuing an anti-Arab pro-Israel policy in the Middle East. God, I daren't even read any more of that. Get me channel demonetised. What I will say about the 9/11 coverage is it was worse than that, because there was that clip, wasn't there, of the woman saying, what was it, Tower 7 or Building 7, whatever it was called, had fallen, and you could see it over her shoulder. The BBC News. You gotta laugh. If you don't laugh, you cry, don't you? There's a couple more of these, but I won't read them out because otherwise the video will go on forever, won't it? But if you're interested in reading all of them, in the description thing below, I always put the source in there so you can click it and have a look for yourself to make sure I'm not lying to you. So take a look at that. There's a few interesting ones. But what do you think? What do you think was the worst one of those in that article that I read out? I mean, you know my thoughts on it. I said quite clearly tonight, but they're all pretty bad. BBC, they deserve your money today. It's reason enough to cancel your licence if you're still paying it, and it's reason enough to work hard to help as many people cancel their TV licences as possible, isn't it? Because they're dirty, they're filthy, they're liars, and they won't learn from their mistakes, will they? Well, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you in another video again soon. Thanks for watching.